If Russell could not quite paint at Weimar's level, at least early in his career, it might have been his own doing. He never seriously took art lessons, barely surviving 3 days at the St. Louis Art School, where he was instructed to draw squares, cubes, and still lifes, but basically refused.
Russell never attended an art school, but he watched others work and watched, obviously, with great success. So the boy who had not loved school never went to school to be an artist, but life itself and experience and observation figured dramatically into his artwork.
Art he was good at, exceptionally good, at least his own version of it. But in terms of general education, young Charlie's response was truancy. Instead of going to school, he would hide his books and head down to the riverfront, or to the levees, or to the mule markets.
The waterfront was crowded with adventurers. Some were old-timers with well-worn buckskins and weathered countenances. The rough characters there liked the lad and took time to answer his questions and tell him bits about the life far out where the riverboats and wagon trains were destined to go.
The boy attended candlelit magic lantern shows, viewed the wonders of the West, heard stories about cowboys, Indians, and outlaws, and reveled in everything. Charlie couldn't wait to go west. He tried to stow away on a boat, then ran away from home, attempting once to set out for Montana, hitching rides on farm wagons. He survived for weeks by his wits, but finally gave up and returned home. After years of witnessing his struggles with formal education, Charlie's parents made one last stab at getting their son schooled. They sent him to a military academy in New Jersey with a friend.
Charlie's father told him that if he would go east with me to school for 6 months, that at the end of this time, he'd let him go west.
Charlie lasted only 3 months. He swapped drawings of Western scenes for other boys' homework, which managed to get him reprimanded and tethered to seemingly endless sessions of guard duty. By winter, he was back home in St. Louis. And by spring, just 5 days before his 16th birthday, and at last with his parents' begrudging permission, and just like Huckleberry Finn, he was lighting out for the territory.
You get a sense of that boy standing there in St. Louis and looking at those boats and imagining what they reached when they made their upriver journey. And apparently for a while, he thought maybe instead of being a cowboy, he'd be a pirate. Why not? You're on the water. He supposedly drew an anchor in ink, you know, one of those schoolboy tattoos on his arm. But in fact, the buffalo skull would win out.
So any reaction, John, from what you saw, the images of St. Louis?
First of all, I see my eyes bug. I had never seen Gus is an incredible researcher. There were a couple images there, that one of Charlie at military school I'd never seen, that others of you have. I thought, what struck me, other than because I've seen the sketches before, he was a damn handsome guy. Yeah. And that helped explain a lot how he could work his magic on people. He was obviously, that lantern jaw. To Brian's remark about the waterfront, you have to realize that Charlie was from a very proper, well-to-do, connected St. Louis family. So for him to want to flee and escape and be somebody else was a real rebellion. And it wasn't just sort of running out to the woods for the day. For him to want to go far away he was driven by something. There was a lot of the romance to it, but there was obviously something else going on with him that really sparked that big adventure.
Did you bring up the influence of his other relatives that did go west?
Yeah, and you haven't seen it yet, but there are references to his uncles and the Bents, and yeah, that's in hour one too. Hey, Gus can
That,
speak to...
yeah, that precedes this
What are we talking
part.
about here?
We're
The
talking about
Russell's
the
relatives.
family and his uncles that came out in New Mexico and stuff like that. And that's I'll let the cat out of the bag here. That's yet to be finished because it requires this sort of special effect that I'm incapable of doing. So we had to send it out. That whole sequence is told through the old stereopticon that people used to put the slides in. So it introduces his mom and Charles Bent, and it goes through this whole like 2-minute montage, and everything that you see that talks about his family's history is through the stereopticon image thing. It's just a gimmick.
To John's comment about the perfect picture or picture he hasn't seen, Gus, what kind of photographs were you looking for?
Any ones I could get.
Well, what makes a perfect picture, though?
Who knows? The military academy was a military academy in New Jersey. And the riverboats are riverboats in St. Louis. And there was something else there. Anyway, it was a real foray into using legitimate images for me. So, so everything is besides the military academy. What else was?
Here's a picture of the kids in a circle.
Oh yeah, the Art Institute was a real art institute in St. Louis there, and what images. So, if you go to their archives. So I'm not really sure, if Brian and I sat down for a couple of days, we could probably figure out, was that the school he really went to? But it's long been torn down and stuff. But those images it could have been the real school.
Yeah, the painting of the Russell house is by Russell, the one you saw briefly on the screen.
And in relation to all this stuff, Russell was so careful about authenticity, and that's, I think, one of the good things about Gus and my partnership. I'll write stuff in the script, and Gus will make sure that this is the real thing that he's presenting, the most authentic thing that we can find as a visual image. My journalism background is to be absolutely, as close as I can, certain about what I'm writing about, and Gus mirrors that in terms of what you're seeing and hearing.
Exactly. I've got 2 pictures above my edit station. One is a picture of Charlie to remind me, are we having a good time with this? And the other picture is a picture of Brian Dippy to remind me, are we being authentic? So as you can see, I'm torn between the two.